What is going on? It is. Hey,
Sorry, a little slow starting on a weekend. Good grief. Baseball is back, and it is time to play ball with Locked On.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, and we are Locked On Baseball. We're back. We've got games. They're spring training games, but hey, Cactus League Spring Training action begins today. Reds and Guardians. We've got a lineup. We've got the pitching schedule and everything that's going on here for this first game. Thank you so much, though, for joining us on this live pregame edition of the Locked On Reds podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and we are your team every single day. We absolutely love talking baseball and talking Reds, and talking Reds is what we do. So we want to talk Reds with you. Thanks for joining us on this live show. Please jump into the comments section, drop your questions, drop your thoughts, drop everything that you got when you're talking about the Reds and spring training, because we're going to be talking about it at least up until first pitch here on the Locked On Reds YouTube page. If you're not subscribed, make sure that you do. That way you don't miss anything we've got coming for you. We are here Monday through Friday, all season long, going to have lots of content for you. And we're working on an idea for maybe like a big game pregame live or postgame live or something like that. That's still in the works as games get going here. But Steve, it is very exciting. We've got an amazing starting pitcher going today with a huge storyline. Got some great dudes in the lineup. I absolutely love all of the intrigue that surrounds this first game.
You know, when spring training generally gets underway, I don't have a lot of excitement for individual storylines within that game, at least the first game of the season. My excitement is always just based on baseball being back. But right out of the gate today, there is stuff going on that matters. Brandon Williamson is trying to pitch his way into this starting rotation. And I have to imagine that this is one of those rare spring training starts where the pitcher is approaching it like it's a real start. He is going to go out there and try and put his best foot forward to make an impression and get some attention, keep all eyes on him, and leave little doubt that he belongs.
Yeah, and he's got stuff. Like, that was one of the things that when they talked about him in 2021 and he was striking guys out at a ridiculous clip, Brandon Williamson has stuff. He can pitch. It was just a little bit of, you know, what's the command going to look like this year? And we've got a great a lineup here of pitchers. We'll talk about the lineup of pitchers first before we get into the hitting lineup, because everyone on this list is vying for a spot in, whether you're talking about the rotation with Brandon Williamson. I don't really look at anybody else on today's schedule and say that they're looking for a rotation spot, but all of them are looking for a bullpen spot.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's probably 3 to 4 guys going today that already have a spot in the Reds bullpen. Reiver Sanmartin, Buck Farmer, and Lucas Sims all scheduled to pitch today. And we're going to be looking for very different things from those 3 guys. For 2 of them, Reiver Sanmartin and Buck Farmer, we're going to just be looking for them to come out, be consistent, be in the strike zone, and do their work. These are guys that are on this team. We're just looking for them to start the process of getting ready by facing hitters on an opposing team. The third guy on that list is Lucas Sims. There's much more things to look at when you watch Lucas Sims pitch today. We're going to be looking to see if he looks like he's feeling good. We're going to be to see if there's any rust, if there's any residual effect from him being out and being injured a great portion of last season. We're going to look to see what kind of zip does he have on the ball? What kind of movement does he have on the ball? His breaking pitches, how are they working? There's lots to see here. He's one of the few guys that are guaranteed a bullpen spot that I think does need to come out in spring and show us a little bit. And he's going to be able to get that, some of those questions answered right away. He's going to be able to show us that he's okay if he comes out and has a successful performance today.
Yeah, and I'm also very excited to see Ricky Karcher, because I don't really know much about him. I mean, you can look at the numbers, you can see what he's done in the minor leagues and say, okay, there's something there. But let me see. Let me get the eye test going on Ricky Karcher. Looking forward to seeing what he's got here. And just at the end of the day, and we've talked about this before on past episodes, and if this is your first time checking us out, thank you so much for checking us out here on YouTube. But on past episodes, we've talked about when you're looking at pitchers' performances in spring training, don't go crazy on the stats, especially when you're talking about ERA and things like that, because in spring, two things are going to happen. Number one, their sample size is going to be tiny. So if they do come out and they give up a couple of runs, that ERA is already going to balloon. And then the other thing is, if they're established veterans and if they're guys who do have a spot in this bullpen, don't start questioning them if their performance numbers don't look amazing in spring, because they're probably working on something. We've talked a lot about guys in live BP sessions that get that changeup rolling and things like that. So I am super excited to see this pitching stat. But you know what, Steve, this lineup too, when you're talking about the hitters, 1-2 already, like India and Stephenson are the two guys that we look at that have us so excited about the potential of run scoring for this team. They're starting off 1-2 today.
And let's dig through this lineup. I'm going to read through the whole thing just very quickly. It's a weekend, guys. We're dropping in extra here for you. I had to drag Jeff away from setting up for his pregame ritual to watch this spring training game. So no graphics today, but I want to read through the lineup if you haven't seen it yet. Leading off and playing second base will be Jonathan India. Tyler Stephenson is in the lineup as the designated hitter, batting in the 2-hole. Batting number 3, playing right field, is Wil Myers. Chad Pinder is the cleanup hitter, playing third base, which was kind of a surprise for me. Will Benson comes in batting 5th, playing center field. Maley is our catcher today. Look, I said it right, Jeffrey. At shortstop and batting 7th is Jose Barrero. Stuart Fairchild is going to be playing left field and batting 8th. And then Vosler brings up the end of the lineup, batting 9th and playing third base. You're absolutely right. A big 1-2 punch to start this game. Were you surprised to see Tyler Stephenson batting second? I mean, I know he's not going to bat there in the season, but it's just kind of fun to see those two guys up top.
I wasn't, simply because they're trying to get him the most at bats possible. But, I was thinking about this, Steve, because I think in our minds, he's the de facto cleanup hitter. He's got the best RBI potential on the team, but there is that old adage or not old adage, it's not an adage, but everyone knows if you bat cleanup as opposed to batting second, you're actually going to have less at bats during the year. Math, that sort of thing. So I wonder, and I think I'd be interested in approaching this because we've talked about it. There is no clear-cut number 2 hitter on this team right now. Now, maybe Ellie De La Cruz comes up and takes a hold of that. You got India, De La Cruz, and then you hit the middle of the lineup. But maybe until that point, is there something to Tyler Stephenson hitting there? Because dude is a versatile hitter that does whatever you need him to do.
I've always questioned the logic of the Big Bopper being 4th. I kind of like that guy to be in the 3 spot, guaranteed to bat in the first inning. If you have 2 on base, high percentage on base guys in front of him, he's going to get his RBI opportunities. And it does create opportunities for a few extra at bats throughout the year because they're guaranteed to hit every first inning. So for me, I don't know that I would move him up to the number 2 spot, Jeff, on a regular basis, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings at all if he was the number 3 hole guy throughout the year, no matter what position he's playing in the lineup, just because it will get him some extra at bats throughout the season. And it will still give him those RBI opportunities and the chances to, be the guy driving the engine of this lineup. I would have no problem at all with that.
And Pender batting 4th is not something that I would say is like a worrisome thing. They're just trying to get him more at bats, and they're not trying to get him more at bats than India and Stephenson or Myers, but that makes sense to kind of put him there. The interesting part about this lineup to me is that Stuart Fairchild gets the start right out of the gate. He's a guy that I think you and I have both kind of pegged as on the bubble when it comes to, is he going to make the opening day roster or isn't he? And it kind of feels like he's leaning more toward Louisville than he is Cincinnati. So I think, and we mentioned this with Brandon Williamson, does him getting this first start change any of that in your mind?
I don't think that it does. I think some of that is just necessitated by the fact that Nick Senzel is not ready. He hasn't started baseball activities yet. So somebody's got to take that spot. And I think that fits the narrative you and I have been preaching with him, that he's going to be the next man up. He's going to be the first dude out of Louisville if there's a spot that opens up because of injury or whatnot amongst the outfielders. This just goes right into that. Jumping into our chat comments here. And wow, you guys, there's so many of you online on a Saturday before the first spring training game of the year. I love it. Joseph Gaditza says, Benson in center field. I am intrigued. Listen, I think I'm excited to see him right out of the gate because, Jeff, I know you're really big on him. You believe that he could wind up being center fielder number one, even if Nick Senzel is healthy and ready to go on opening day. What are we looking for from Benson throughout the course of this spring? I know it's hard to gauge real hitting talent based on the results of spring training because pitchers are working on things. But for me, I'm looking to see how he patrols center field. I'm looking to see that cannon arm. I'm looking to see how, as a center fielder, he's in charge of the outfield. He's directing the other guys as well. I'm looking for that from him. And, when he's batting, I'm looking to see how he works pitches. I'm looking to see how he maybe works the count, draws walks, and then obviously results-based things such as hits, home runs, and how he performs on base. What's the one thing you want to see from him?
Yeah, when he does take swings, because this was something that our friends up at Locked On Guardians told us, Justin Latta, he said, he is a very patient hitter, almost to a fault. He might take some called third strikes. So when he does swing, is he getting cheated? Is he giving us bad swings? Are they swings at pitches that he just doesn't see? Because his profile coming up through the minor leagues, he had such amazing scouting grades on his power, on his arm, on his base running, on his fielding, but he had such a terrible grade on his hitting tool. And a lot of that was the propensity to strike out a lot. So what does that turn into? How do his at-bats look? Does he look like he is getting fooled a lot? Or is this something where he sees it and he's just trying to get all of the pitches in? Because I'm not going to look at batting average here, not going to look at, too many of the counting statistic. But yeah, that strikeout to walk ratio could be the one stat that I'm looking at for Wil Benson. And I was checking too, because I wanted to make sure. No Jake Fraley tonight is kind of interesting to me, being a lefty, and with Cal Quantrill, who is a right-handed pitcher, makes me wonder if they just want to see more of Stuart Fairchild. But yeah, Mitch makes a good point too.
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of went there with Fraley, because that also follows in Spencer Steer, not in the lineup today. I was a little surprised just because it's the first game that he's not out there, that they went with something else. But look, don't read too much into who's playing and who's not, because what David Bell is setting up here is spring games have quite a programmed rotation. Guys will know well in advance, you're playing the first half this day, you're not playing at all on that day, you're playing the second half of the game over here. It's all very, very programmed, very, very regimented. There are no reports out of Goodyear that there's something wrong with Spencer Steer. I think they're just creating a rotation, and this is the group of guys they're running out there together.
And did you see who's available off the bench?
The one and only Ellie De La Cruz is projected to play in the second half of today's games, folks. Get your popcorn, get your cold beverage. We are going to see some electrifying shows today.
We got EDLC and we got CES. Christian Encarnacion Strand is also slated to come off the bench at some point in this game. This is why this spring is so exciting. You have this starting lineup where there are some guys that are trying to make a name for themselves, trying to get going. Chad Pender just trying to make the roster, and Fairchild and Jason Vosler and guys like that. But then you've also got the exciting young prospects who are ready for the major leagues. I firmly believe we're going to see pretty much everybody that we see today. I think we're going to see at some point this year. Now, if Noel V. Marte gets into a game, or Edwin Arroyo or something like that, probably not those guys, but Ellie De La Cruz, Christian Encarnacion Strand, and look for the rookie pitchers as well to get going here early in spring training. This spring, I'm pumped, man. I'm ready to go.
All right, let's do a couple quick bold predictions for today's game. And I did not prep Jeff for this, so it's going to be good. So I am going to go first. For me, I predict Ellie De La Cruz homers in today's game. I think he comes in the second half of this game. He's going to be facing very raw minor league pitchers in the second half of the game, and he's going to light one of them up. Ellie De La Cruz goes yard today. That is my bold prediction for the first spring training game of the year.
See, and I'll go individual as well. I think Wil Benson's going to homer. I think he heard about me creating the Wil Benson fan club, and he's just ready to go. That hype train is leaving the station. You guys better jump on right now. But I love that individually. And then team-wise, something that I'm looking at, I think we are going to see at least, and I don't know, I hope that they're all successful, but I think we will see at least 5 steal attempts. I think that they are going to get this base running going because that's something that they talked about all off season. Team speed. We want to see more team speed. I think we see at least 5 steal attempts today.
All right. Well, there's only one way to find out if either myself or Jeff is correct with our bold predictions. And here is where we are, folks. We are about 6 minutes away from first pitch on the first spring training game of 2023. So what we're going to do now is we are going to get out of here. I appreciate you all dropping in for this quick live. We love the lives. Thank you guys for all being in the comments. Great stuff in there. I saw a lot of questions. Come back next Friday for the Aloha Live Friday edition, where we have plenty of time to get at all of your questions, all of your comments, and talk Reds baseball. And with that being said, Jeff, why don't you go ahead and wrap us up? It's game time.
It is game time, Steve. And that's going to do it for this pregame edition. This is our first pregame attempt. I think we're going to do more of this as the season goes along of the Locked On Reds podcast. Thank you so much for listening to us. Hope you all enjoy the game. Coming up on Monday, we're going to break down today's game. We're going to look at Sunday's game, the big news, the big stories. What were our big takeaways from the 2 first games of the year? Make sure you check us out on Monday. We hope to see everybody then and hope that you listen then. But until then, you can know that we are going to be Locked On Reds every single day.